My ex-wife showed up to our divorce hearing pregnant, thinking it would help her get a payout. But then the judge asked one question. Have you ever seen someone dig their own grave in real time? That's exactly what my ex-wife, Jessica, did. I should have anticipated her move. The entire divorce process had been a nightmare: delays, tantrums, and ridiculous filings just to waste my time. If she had put even half the effort into our marriage that she did into making my life miserable, we wouldn't be here. When she walked into the hearing pregnant, I almost laughed, not because I thought the child was mine, I knew it wasn't, but because I could see her plan unfolding like a cheap soap opera. Jessica was counting on one thing: that the judge would see a poor, abandoned pregnant woman and force me to pay up. Forget the prenup, forget logic, play the sympathy card and make a payday. I could already hear her rehearsed speech: Your Honor, I have a baby on the way, and I've been left with nothing. How am I supposed to survive? All while shooting me side glances, waiting for me to squirm. Too bad for her, I don't play dumb, and I don't lose. Jessica had underestimated me. She thought I'd panic or get flustered, maybe even offer a settlement to avoid looking like the bad guy in front of the judge. But she didn't know what I knew. I had figured her out months ago. The thing about Jessica was, she wasn't just bad at marriage, she was bad at lying. And she had no clue that the one question the judge was about to ask would make her whole story fall apart. Jessica walked into that courtroom smug, playing her part perfectly, one hand on her belly, the other brushing her hair behind her ear as if she wasn't about to commit legal fraud. She even let out a dramatic sigh when she took her seat, acting like this whole ordeal was exhausting for her. I didn't react. I didn't need to. Unlike Jessica, I wasn't walking in blind. I was ready, and so was my lawyer, Ethan. He was the kind of guy who could smile in court while tearing apart the opposing side with the law. I wasn't a fan of lawyers, but after watching him dismantle Jessica's antics over the last few months, I was glad he was on my side. Jessica had gone through 3 different lawyers since the divorce started. The one she had today was a newbie, fresh out of law school and probably desperate for a win. I almost felt sorry for him, almost. Here's the thing: Jessica had tried this before, not the pregnancy stunt, but the manipulation, the fake distress of being a struggling woman. Unfortunately, some people fell for it, including my own mother. A week before the hearing, she called me, saying, "Just settle. You don't want this dragging on forever." I pinched the bridge of my nose. Mom, she's not getting a CENT. That's why we had a prenup. But she's pregnant. Do you really want that on your conscience? I almost lost it. This isn't my kid, Mom. She hesitated. Are you sure? I wanted to laugh. Of course, I'm sure. She cheated on me repeatedly. I caught her. I paused. Besides, if I thought this was my kid, she wouldn't need to pull these stunts. I take care of them, that's the difference between us. She schemes, I take responsibility. My mom went quiet, then sighed. I just don't want to see this get uglier. It was already ugly, but I promised her I'd handle it. And that brings us back to today. The judge walked in, and the hearing began. Jessica's lawyer immediately launched into a sob story. Your Honor, my client is in an impossible situation. She's pregnant, unemployed, and struggling due to the emotional and financial strain caused by this drawn-out divorce. Jessica sniffled for effect. I didn't even blink. Ethan waited patiently, letting the theatrics unfold. Then he stood up, calm and collected. Your Honor, while we certainly sympathize with Miss Parker's situation, we need to clarify a few things before proceeding. First and foremost, he turned to Jessica's lawyer, who is the father of this child. Just like that, Jessica visibly stiffened. I knew that question was coming. She assumed the court wouldn't question her pregnancy and that she could waltz in, look vulnerable, and walk out with a fat check. But legally, her pregnancy was only relevant if I was the father. Her lawyer froze and then weakly said, "My client believes it is the petitioner's." I almost laughed. Believed. Ethan didn't flinch. She believes, so there's no proof. Jessica shifted uncomfortably while the judge's eyes narrowed. Miss Parker, have you had a paternity test done? Jessica's mouth opened and closed, trapped. I just assumed. You assumed, the judge repeated, unimpressed. Is there any evidence to suggest the petitioner is the father? Her lawyer looked like he wanted to disappear. Jessica looked pale. I leaned back in my chair, enjoying the show. At this point, Ethan was ready to finish her off. Your Honor, we have strong reason to believe this child is not my client's. He pulled out photos taken 2 months after Jessica and I separated, showing her on vacation with another man holding hands, kissing. Clear proof she had moved on. Then came the final nail in the coffin. Ethan slid medical documents across the table. Additionally, we have subpoenaed Miss Parker's recent medical records, which show her first confirmed pregnancy test was months after she and my client last had contact. Jessica's face crumpled. Her lawyer looked at her, realizing she had never shared any of this with him. The judge let out a long sigh and shook his head. Miss Parker, this court does not take kindly to deception. Given the evidence, there is no basis for financial support. The prenup stands. You will not be receiving alimony or additional compensation. Boom. Jessica gasped as if she'd been physically struck. But, Your Honor, this hearing is over, he cut her off. Jessica sat there frozen, the judge's words hanging heavy in the air. I could see it happening in real time, her brain scrambling for a way out. This wasn't how she thought today would go. In her version of events, she was supposed to cry, look pitiful, and leave with a fat monthly check. Instead, she had been publicly exposed. Her lawyer wasn't even looking at her anymore. He was staring at the floor, probably regretting every decision that led him to take this case. Meanwhile, Jessica was gripping the edge of the table, trying to hold on to the last remnants of her scheme. Then the tantrum began, her last desperate attempt. But, Your Honor, Jessica blurted, her voice high-pitched. This isn't fair. I'm about to have a baby, and he just gets to walk away. The judge exhaled sharply, rubbing his temples. He was done. Miss Parker, he said firmly, this court does not make financial judgments based on emotional appeals. Your pregnancy has no legal bearing on this divorce unless paternity is established, which, based on the evidence provided, it has not. He held up a hand. Enough. Jessica snapped, turning in her chair to face me. You're really going to do this to me? To your own child? There it was, the final gamble. Even after being publicly humiliated, she was still trying to plant doubt. The courtroom fell silent. I smiled, a slow, amused, merciless smile. Do you really want to do this, Jessica? I leaned forward, my voice calm. You want to go on record accusing me of being the father? Because we can get a court-ordered paternity test right now. Her face twitched, she had nothing. In that moment, so did everyone else in the room. The judge didn't even bother responding. He simply turned to the clerk. The hearing was done. Jessica had lost everything, but it wasn't over yet. I walked out of the courtroom with Ethan beside me, my mom trailing a few steps behind. I half expected Jessica to slink out quietly, but I should have known better. She stormed out after me, heels clacking, face red, hands shaking. You're a monster, she hissed. You let me sit there humiliated. I turned slowly, looking her up and down. I'm sorry, Jessica. Which part humiliated you? The part where you tried to scam the court, or the part where you realized I was 3 steps ahead? Her jaw clenched. You set me up. No, sweetheart, I smiled again. You set yourself up. I just let you walk into it. She looked like she wanted to throw something at me, but then tried one last card. She turned to my mom. Are you seriously okay with this? With what he did to me? My mom hesitated, then crossed her arms. I'm not okay with what you did to him, she said. You had us all fooled once. Never again. Jessica's lip quivered. For a second, I thought she might actually cry. Then the real explosion came. I hope you rot, she spat, stepping forward as if she wanted to claw at me. Miss Parker, a stern voice came from behind her. Jessica froze. 2 court officers had stepped into the hallway. Come with us, please. Her head snapped around. What? Why? The judge has recommended an inquiry into potential perjury and fraud, one officer said. You'll need to answer some questions. Her eyes went wide. Wait, no. That's not, but they were already leading her back into the courtroom. I let out a slow breath. Ethan patted my shoulder. Well, that was satisfying. I smirked. Yeah, it was. Jessica was dragged back into the courtroom, and I didn't follow. I didn't need to. The moment those court officers took her away, she ceased to be my problem. But I still made sure to follow up. Turns out the judge wasn't just angry, he was making an example out of her. Faking financial distress? Bad. Trying to manipulate the court? Worse. Lying under oath? That's perjury. Her fraudulent claims meant she was now under investigation. The court didn't just dismiss her plea for alimony, they flagged her case for potential financial fraud. She had dug her own grave. Over the next few months, I heard bits and pieces. The judge hit her with fines for wasting the court's time. Her lawyer dropped her immediately. Her attempt to file for government aid was denied. Turns out they also require proof of paternity. And the cherry on top? Her new boyfriend dumped her. Apparently, after my lawyer pulled out those vacation photos in court, the guy started doing the math and realized he wasn't the only one she had been with. Suddenly, he wasn't so sure he was the father either. A few months after the trial, I got a text from an unknown number. Jessica, I hope you're happy. I stared at it for a second, then typed back, I am, thanks for asking. Then I blocked the number. I didn't need to hear from her again. She had spent years trying to manipulate, control, and milk me for everything I had. But now, she was alone, and for the first time in a long time, I was free.